the Streams platform is basically to encourage home educators, and you can go and read stories, reviews, just to recap since we weren't recording. And also, we do these monthly webinars. So we do one webinar with a resource provider, and we do another webinar with somebody like Liz, who can come and encourage us as in whatever kind of home education we're doing. And we also are on Clubhouse once a week, and just having general conversation there. And what else, Joe? We have a newsletter and a blog every month. So there's something. So if you go and sign up on the Streams website, you can actually get the newsletter, and that will tell you everything that's going on so that you can actually stay up to date and catch up on all the good stuff. But right now, I'm just really excited to have Liz Quain with me, and I'm going to just spotlight the two of us there. Liz, I will join you in a minute.
Thank you, Juliet.
Yeah,
God, you guys are so busy. I mean, I met Joe, I think a couple of years ago, a year or two ago, and we were working on a project with helping her launch her dojo in Bristol. And so she told me, gosh, how long ago did you launch Streams? Because you've done so much.
It's about a year and a half, I think. Since we started talking about it, or since I first chatted with Joe, I think. You lose track of the way time passes.
Yeah, well, you have great content up there now. I love all the interviews and the resources and the reviews. So it's wonderful. I wish you lots of luck, and I'm happy to spread the word to my home education, world schooling community.
Yes, well, we're very thankful to have you, because I also sort of came across Liz a couple of years ago, early in the pandemic, when she was helping organize the summit for Galileo. And, so kind of had been on my radar, and glad that you've been pulled a little closer into the orbit. So just really good to have you on board today. And Liz is what we're now coming to call world schoolers. So she's actually a home educating mum, but she travels the world at the same time. And it's just incredibly interesting. But so we're going to talk all about that today. But before we get going, I just want to find out a little bit from you, just have a little picture of who you are and how you came to home educate.
Sure. Let me share my screen because I have a quick little slideshow just with a few slides to talk about world schooling. Let me see if I can get rid of this. You could see a little bit more of our pictures. So I am originally from Seattle, but I've lived in several other countries and various US cities. Actually, I was born in Korea. My mother is Korean, and my American father was working in Korea in the 60s and 70s, and met my mom, who worked for the US Air Force. Yeah, so I was born there. So I guess I lived as an expat there. Sort of an expat, but although my mom is a local. That might have been the reason why I'm so interested in other cultures, just from growing up with two different cultures. We moved to the States when I was 9, and I guess starting in college, I just started traveling, going on trips abroad. And prior to having kids, I've been to over 45 countries, throughout 6 continents. So that's my big passion. And in 1998, I quit my job and I backpacked around the world for a year. So that's where a lot of the countries came in. And I guess 13 years ago, I became a solo parent to fraternal twin girls, Aubrey and Gabriella. And because of them, I launched an indoor children's play cafe outside of Seattle. And it was about 8,600 square feet, nearly 800 square meters, so quite large. It had a large play area for kids 0 to 6 and 3 birthday party rooms and a preschool, a play-based preschool. So I've been a big fan of Peter Gray and play-based learning since then. And it also had a healthy foods cafe. It had Spanish and Mandarin classes, ballet classes, the works. So of course I was working over 100 hours a week and burning myself out. And after launching it and running it for almost 4 years, my kids were getting too old for it. They had attended kindergarten and first grade. Public school wasn't really working for my kids, especially Aubrey, who has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and neither of them liked school, all the rules. I mean, they came from my play-based preschool, which was so freeing, and they were able to play and learn with using their creativity and imagination. And all of a sudden they're in an environment where they had all these rules and they had to queue up and, you know, raise their hand to go to the toilet. And it was just not working out. So I pulled my kids out of school. I sold my business and most of my belongings. And we decided to take a year to travel just to try this world schooling lifestyle. I had heard about world schooling and working as a digital nomad. Now, previously, when I had traveled, I had just saved up money and went and traveled. So this was a new concept for me to be able to work and while I'm traveling. So the first year we traveled around Asia and a little bit of Europe. And then we came back to the States and went again for a couple of years. We spent time in Latin America and then came back. And now we're in Europe and well, Turkey. So far it's been almost 6 years, and knock on wood, it's been working pretty well so far. We are currently in our 19th foreign country outside the US, and oops, I'm trying to advance my screen. Here we go. So my background professionally is working in sales and marketing. I worked in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York, mostly big cities. And I've also had a few entrepreneurial stints. I had already mentioned the Play Cafe and preschool. While I was traveling, I was really curious about how, you know, all the different ways you can work online or in real life, you know, but moving from place to place. So I have done things like sales and marketing consulting. I sold some products on Amazon. I also taught English online. And then how I know all of you is I helped launch and grow an EdTech startup that we know as Galileo. It's an online global school that my kids attend. They're one of the founding students. And so for over, I think almost 2.5 years, I was helping them launch. I was the onboarding director for a while. And then I launched the Dojo program, the in-person micro school hybrid with Galileo program. Now I had given a presentation, I guess 3 years ago, on 200 income ideas to fund family travel and world schooling. I was meaning to launch an online business then, but I kind of got sucked into Galileo. So I'm finally doing it now. I've been studying digital nomad jobs and businesses for over 6 years. It's one of the top questions people ask, like, how do you fund the lifestyle? How do you work online or traveling from place to place? So I am planning to launch a business called Trailblazing Families. And as a side project, I am launching my own teen world school hub here in Fethiye, Turkey, which is starting on Monday. I've got about 8 students interested, and I want to keep it small just at the beginning because it's an experiment. But we may be working with another online school, Omnis, which is co-founded by another world schooling mom, Jennifer Miller. And she's going to make some content available for us. And we have hired a local Turkish facilitator. I'm still training her about self-directed learning, and we're going to loosely follow the agile learning method. And so I'm still trying to de-school her, I guess, because she keeps talking about, well, what should I teach? And I keep saying, you're not going to be teaching, you're going to be facilitating. We're going to be doing what the kids want to do. It's child-led. So that is kind of my background and what brings me up to here. And I guess we could either switch to questions, or I have loads of photos to show you. And I know, Juliet, you had mentioned what is world schooling. So instead of me coming up with it, I just thought let this wonderful website, weareworldschoolers.org, explain it. World schooling is an intentional act of viewing the world as one's classroom. In its simplest form, world schooling is an act of learning from the world. It combines multi-age and experiential learning and travel and or cultural experiences to facilitate learning and discovery. So you can check out this website, We Are World Schoolers. It was launched by Lainey Liberty and her son Moreau, who's I think in his 20s. They're one of the veteran world schoolers out there. And, we've met them several times out in the world. They have a Project World School teen retreat and a family summits that we've attended. So check it out. And it also explains whether or not you can world school from your home without travel. And the answer is yes. You do not need to be a full-time traveler or even a part-time traveler to be considered a world schooler. So it's just really learning about other worldviews, cultures, rituals, and whatnot. And for me, I think because I had traveled a lot pre-kids, my aim is really to raise global citizens. I mean, we are Americans, but we're also global citizens. I think it's really important in this day and age for kids to understand other perspectives. And if everyone did that, we might have fewer problems around the world. So yeah, I guess that's one of my main missions for my kids, is to raise them to be free thinking, global citizens, hopefully entrepreneurial, hopefully, have some type of online business, because I think it gives you a lot more freedom to live where you want. If some things go wrong in your country, if it gets too expensive, or there's a war, or there's climate change, if you have the skills to work online, or moving from place to place, I think you'll have a little bit more freedom and security long term. That's kind of my thought on that. So definitely check out We Are Worldschoolers. And Julia, did you want to have us take some questions?
Yeah. Well, I've got. I mean, people could, as we're talking, please put questions in the chat. Lucy has asked, what do you travel in? And obviously that can differ from one to the other, so we'll get onto that in a minute. And I also wanted to sort of, perhaps you could talk a bit about that, about the different ways people do world school, because sometimes some people do it like full time and others do it in instance. So perhaps we can talk a bit more, and then what kinds of methods of transport, how would they get about, and how do they do
and
that?
Some people do it as a gap year. They just go all out for 1 year, and they go to many countries, and they spend quite a bit. We tend to slow travel. I think the first year we were traveling, I didn't work, so we were traveling on the proceeds of my business sale, and I think we visited about 10 countries that first year. So, basically trains, planes, and automobiles are the main ways to get around, and tuk-tuks and in the back of a pickup truck. And there's so many different ways. We also are friends with lots of people who have RVs, campers. We actually rented a couple campers when we were in Spain and Portugal recently. And I'm thinking about buying one in the future, although we had mechanical problems in Portugal, so it kind of scared me off for a bit. There's families that sail around the world. And there's a family, Jennifer Miller started out years ago cycling around Europe with her family and camping. So there's so many ways to do it. We typically fly. I did drive my car from Seattle to Playa del Carmen a couple years ago. So it took us about 2 weeks to do that road trip. And then later I sold my car. And from getting from Bulgaria to Turkey, we took a train and then an overnight bus. So, there's cheap ways to do it. There's expensive ways to do it. So there are so many different ways to world school. And then a lot of the world school families, some of them settle down somewhere. And I would say that they're now expats or residents. So we are thinking about someday settling down somewhere, but we haven't decided where. One of my girls, now that I have teens, they're really wanting a little bit more continuity. This is one of the reasons why I'm really passionate about these world school hubs, or learning centers or dojos or whatnot, because I don't want us to just constantly be like we're on this endless vacation. We're not. I mean, people, when you see my travel photos, you think that's all we do is just we're on holiday. But we spend a lot of downtime working. Again, my girls attend Galileo. They do other programs. We've participated in World School Hubs. We're launching one. There's so many different ways for us to be busy. This is actually quite a social lifestyle. People think that we're not socializing, but if you intentionally go to places where there are other families, like-minded families, then there's loads of socializing, sometimes too much, and it's hard to get work done. So yeah, did I plan out the traveling? The first year I kind of had a rough idea of where I wanted to go. We had traveled around Asia. We'd gone to countries I had been to before. And, I really also wanted to learn my kids to learn Spanish. So that's why we spent a lot of time in Latin America. One of them succeeded with, the other one is hesitant and now wants to learn French. So, or maybe Italian. She keeps changing her mind. I think the first year I had kind of a rough itinerary, and I kind of figured where to be. I'm also a big fan of being places where it's not too hot or humid or too cold, unless it's a ski place. So I do check the websites on weather, and I try to be places not during high season because the costs are high. Try to go during shoulder seasons, but we generally try to go to places where there's other families, other Worldschooling families, or expats who are open to meeting with us.
Yes, and I wanted to ask you, how do you find them? Because obviously social media these days has made that much easier. So are there specific groups that have been set up so you can connect with others?
Yes. And, let me share my screen, because I did mention in this thing. So there are loads of Facebook groups that have the word Worldschooling or Worldschoolers. There's a large one called Worldschoolers. It has over 50,000 members. Now, not all of them are currently traveling. There's a We Are Worldschoolers, which is run by Lainey Liberty and Moreau, and they're very passionate about this lifestyle. There's Worldschooling Central by Karen King. She's here in Fethiye. We finally met in real life after being Zoom friends for a few years. And there's a brand new worldschoolers.app that you should check out. I think there's a place where you can list where you currently are, so you can try to meet up with other families. And there's loads of resources there. Now, my Facebook group that I'm launching for my new business, it's called Trailblazing Digital Nomads, Location Independent Worldschooling Families. I had to put all these keywords in there, but it's Trailblazing Families. We're pioneers. We're going out and doing things a little bit differently. But I would just Google Worldschooling or look on Facebook for Worldschoolers. So typically, some of these groups have, a weekly post. Where in the world are you, or where are you going? But that's kind of how we meet everyone.
Yes, because I've seen you've connected, and your children are able to probably follow some families around, bump into them all over the place.
We have met several families several times. There's one family that we met in Bali that we later saw in Chiang Mai, and then we were in Mexico with them, and then also Peru. And Jonathan attends Galileo now because of us. So there's loads of families that we've met in one country, and we've either intentionally reconnected, or we just happen to be in that part of the world. More and more families are trying to go to these world school hubs, and that's a great way to connect with people. And we're trying to especially focus on the teens, because my girls are 13, and a lot of Worldschooling families have younger kids, and sometimes because of the lack of social opportunities for teens, which is so important, some of them want to go back to their home countries and attend high school or secondary school. So I'm trying to avoid that. One of my girls mentions it from time to time, but then I talk to her about all the problems that there are in the public school system. I can't afford expensive American private schools right now. So I told her maybe we can go back to Peru or one of these lower cost of living countries and put you in a private school, because they're not so expensive, and that way you can learn Spanish. But yeah, it's definitely a struggle. So this is why I'm doing the teen hub, because I think that teens really it's hard. I'm trying to, gather them in one place. And we may, if this one in Turkey is successful, I have the Canadian mom who's going to keep it going during the summer, but we may do another pop-up this summer, possibly in the Balkans. And
I think that's a great idea, particularly if you're able to promote it in advance and people can put that into their plan to connect there. And go to that place at least. So you've sort of mentioned a bit about how you've made it work financially. How is that going for you, and what do other people do? Because you are a single parent, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if I can do it, I think married families can do it, because you have two people. And it's kind of interesting. I've met a lot of single parents who travel because it's often cheaper to live this lifestyle than live in your home country. I mean, obviously you need to rent out your house or apartment or sell it. So you're not, paying rent or mortgage in two places. It's, there's all different budgets. I, meet people who earn not a lot of money. They're working online, and they're frugal. And then other people who are, Bitcoin millionaires, or they sold, their house for millions of dollars, or they own lots of rental property. So in the presentation that I gave, I had 13 different categories of different ways to fund this lifestyle. I mean, we have e-commerce, passive income, as I mentioned, if you have Bitcoin or stocks or rental income. There's, creative jobs, or writing jobs, there's teaching jobs, there's e-commerce. The list is endless. There's over 200 ideas, some really interesting ways to fund this lifestyle. So I even met a single parent who loves being pregnant, and she's been a surrogate 3 times. And she gets paid about $30,000 each pregnancy. I mean, obviously she can't travel when she's pregnant or trying to, do all the fertility treatments. But yeah, I mean, that's a very unusual way to fund this
that would fund her next trip, possibly. Yeah. So Lucy asked, in respect of things like your post, your mail, do you have like an address that you keep?
Yes.
Yeah.
I use in the States a service called travelingmailbox.com. I think I pay $150 a year. And I try to get everything from my banks and insurance companies and all of that electronic. So I just get that via email. But if I do need something mailed, then it goes to the traveling mailbox. They scan it and send me an email saying, we have mail for you. Here it is. What should we do with it? Shred it or send it on. Now, my mother also, I'm using her address as our kind of legal tax address. So I sometimes can have things with her, and I do have some of our personal belongings, stored at her house.
Yeah. So another thing that I wanted to ask is, so you've mentioned dojos and, joining up with hubs, and kind of maybe being tourists. Do you want to talk a little bit about the kinds of activities you would try and build into your stay in a place that would probably reinforce some of the learning as well? What are some fun things you've done, or would you like to share your other photographs?
Yeah, maybe I should just very quickly go through my slideshow.
Yeah, because I think that would be good.
Because, oops. And now I have way too many photos and we probably can't go through them all. But maybe I will, oops, I'm going to turn the volume off.
I think talk us through them.
Yeah, so we left our town and went up to Vancouver, Canada. We stayed with a Worldschooling family there who we had met earlier. And we took this Chinese airline to Bali. And at first we stayed at these nice resorts. They were kind of expensive with kids clubs because I didn't want to shock my kids. And they had lots of fun things to do. But little by little, we started moving into cheaper places. But here we are at a street market. I mean, the first bit of it does look like we're on holiday. We're going to a zoo and to the beach and a water park and fun upside down houses. And little by little, we started just doing more and more cultural things. I rented a scooter. This is how we got around, went to the monkey forest in Bali, lots of performances. And then we started meeting other world schoolers and expats. And so we participated in weekly yoga classes and made friends. And the boy in the blue shirt is the one we've seen in 4 countries. So we spent a lot of time with our friends. And then here we're seeing a pig being slaughtered for a festival. So, my kids had never seen that before. They see, meat all packaged up at the grocery store. So that was a little bit of a shock for them. And, we rode our scooter around Bali, and this is our 29th day of Worldschooling because our friends were posting first day of school on Facebook. So we had to post that. We went to Singapore for a long weekend to see friends. And then we went back to Bali. This is a holy spring where we actually wash away our sins. That was really neat. So we're learning about the different religious and cultural and historical customs in that country. We visited a cat cafe, went to waterfalls, turtle sanctuary. We traveled around with another American family to this really cool place called the Gili Islands, where there are no cars. It's just a magical place. We did lots of swimming and snorkeling and swimming with sea turtles, giant sea turtles. And then we went to Korea and met my mom and our relatives. So these are our Korean relatives that we hung out with. Just amazing things to do. There's a Korean folk village, there's museums. We went to the border with North Korea. So these are South Korean soldiers. That was an interesting tour. We dressed up and went to this royal palace where there was a music performance. This is at a museum, military museum. And these are high school friends of my mother that we had lunch with. So yeah, we had wonderful time hanging out with our cousins and eating lots of great food. This actually is a tabletop that they bring over in a cart and push on top of the table. So it looks like this. So we thought that was kind of ingenious. And then let's see, we said goodbye to grandma and went to Japan. So Japan was amazing. Again, lots of children's museums. Kids got to see what it's like to be disabled. We ate a lot of amazing food in Osaka, and we rode bicycles. We went to a park with wild deer. We hung out with this Canadian Dutch family for a bit. They had the most amazing giant aquarium there. And we went to a Halloween party by a Canadian family that owns an English school there. Here we are in Kyoto, just visiting all the amazing temples and sites and forests and sushi restaurants, conveyor belt sushi restaurants and whatnot. And took the bullet train down to Hiroshima. So that was a bit shocking for my kids to learn about atomic bombs and the aftermath. Lots of robots and Mount Fuji, lots of nature. We did this giant hike to visit the snow monkeys in the mountains. It wasn't snowing yet, but they're really amazing. And this shows you how we dry laundry in a tiny Airbnb in Tokyo. We went to Disney. So again, we did do some fun touristy things. Here's another sushi restaurant where you order from an iPad and it brings the food on a tray. Great science museums there. And then here we are sleeping at the Hong Kong airport on the way to Chiang Mai, Thailand, where there's loads of world schoolers. And we participated in this lantern festival where we can buy these and light them and make a wish and have them go up to the heavens. And we went to a lot of parks. We did cooking classes with some other families. And again, some of these families we met in, another country later on. I guess kind of the stuff that you do when you're on holiday, but a little bit more so, went to the movies, hung out with other parents, went on this really cool waterfall where you can run up the waterfalls because there's some limestone, I think, mineral deposits there, so you don't slide down too much. And we went to ancient ruins in Cambodia. This was a acrobatic show that we went and saw. This is how we get around. You asked about how to get around. We hired a man with a motorcycle to drag us behind him. This is Angkor Wat in Cambodia. We ride in the back of pickup trucks sometimes. And we also volunteered at an elephant sanctuary and washed them and fed them. This is Bangkok, very golden and shiny. And then we got some massages really inexpensively. We spent 2.5 months in a fishing village on Koh Phangan Island and celebrated a birthday there. And again, this is just part of our vacation. Not vacation, our travels. Here we are in Kuala Lumpur. It was getting too hot in Asia, so we decided to go to Paris, and we spent a lovely week there. This boy we met in Chiang Mai, and then after viewing all the lovely sights, we went to Ireland, where I have loads of cousins. Believe it or not, I'm a quarter Irish. So we spent a lot of time visiting our Irish relatives who are living in Dublin, Northern Ireland, Western Ireland, Southern Ireland. We went to so many places over a month period. And again, this year I wasn't working. So here is a great grandfather's grave. And we went to a school in Ireland with some cousins. That was really fun. Just hung out with relatives. And then after Ireland, we went to, still in Ireland, went to New York City, where my girls were born in 2009. So we saw the sights there. And these are kids that were born around the same time as my kids. The moms were pregnant when I was pregnant. So it was nice to have a reunion with them. We went to a rooftop party and saw 4th of July fireworks. And again, lots of museums, seeing grandma again. We went to Yellowstone for a week with some friends. And then we went to the Family Adventure Summit in British Columbia. And a lot of these families we met again later on. These kids we met in Chiang Mai, Thailand. So we then decided to go improve our Spanish, and this is us in Cartagena, Colombia. It's a bit too hot for us, so we spent about 6 months in Medellin, Colombia. There's loads of expats living there. We went to museums and karate classes, gymnastics classes, cooking classes. They have these amazing murals in a poor neighborhood that you can now get to via escalators. So it really helps the people living at the top of these steep hills get down to get work. So it really transformed their neighborhood, and they painted some wonderful things. We're learning to bake cookies, and we celebrated the 9th birthday there. And yeah, just made loads of friends. And then we took a flight. We had to spend the night in Bogota airport, and we went to Peru for 5 months. And that was amazing. My girls, I put them in a small private school where they could learn Spanish. This is the house that we shared with some other families and lived there for a while in a very rural area. This is how my kids got to school every day. Yeah, so we met alpacas, and this is Lainey Liberty and Moreau's Teen World School, I guess, pop-up in Peru. So we participated for a day and learned how to pick potatoes and, to dye and make wool and make like little bracelets. Here's the market that I literally went to twice a week. And yeah, there's amazing sites, amazing ruins here in Peru. I highly recommend it, although the nights are super cold. We went on this cheap way, backpacker way to Machu Picchu, and our minivan was stopped by a farmer's strike, and they spray painted our car. So that was kind of hard. And we, myself and 2 other single moms and our kids, we went on an 8-hour walk along railroad tracks. It was really difficult for the kids. We thought it was going to be 4 hours, but of course with kids, it takes longer. And we made it to Machu Picchu, which is something I've been dreaming about for years. It was really amazing. And then we left Peru and went to San Miguel de Allende, Mexico, where there was a World School pop-up for a month. And there was also another family adventure summit, which I was on a panel discussion about long-term travel. We volunteered at some cat and dog sanctuaries, rode horses, just hung out with friends. This is, we had a co-working space that we rented a couple days a week with the groups. I think there was 40, 50 families there. And then this is at the summit. They had some awesome entertainment. And this is the teen talk, the teen panel, which I was really keen to listen to see, you know, my kids are not going to turn out to be homeless. They're going to be fine. The other World School kids are fine, just like home ed kids are fine. We had a Halloween party there. This boy now attends Galileo. And yeah, we painted our faces. This is Day of the Dead. And this is an amazing town there. We met lots of people. Back to grandma. And then we also went to Canada to visit our Canadian friends we had met earlier a couple times before. And then this is the road trip from Seattle down to Playa del Carmen. So it was amazing seeing really interesting sights like the aliens. And here we are in Guanajuato, Mexico. And this is the first time seeing the Caribbean. And then this is in Playa del Carmen, where again, we're meeting with lots of, world schoolers. Grandma came to visit us. She was going to stay a month, but then extended for another 3 weeks. And there's Lainey again, and we participated in her World School conference. And this is just kind of a day in the life of a World Schooler in Playa del Carmen, just sitting on the beach with friends and playing music. It was quite amazing. We went to the park a lot, not just the beach. And then we said goodbye to grandma. We had a friend from France visiting us. We later visited her in France. And then this is the World School Family Summit that Lainey puts on. Here's my girl's 11th birthday. And then we tried to pack up our car and go, to Guatemala to participate in another World School pop-up, but the borders were shutting down that night, and the border in Belize would not let us through. So Mexico gave us another 6 months. Obviously, this is because of COVID. So we stayed in Mexico a bit longer, and this is in Bacalar. We then moved to Puebla, which is Puebla Cholula, which is an hour and a half outside of Mexico City because it's higher elevation. Here are the Smiths who we met in Chiang Mai. We're hanging out with them again, eating amazing food. We didn't socialize much because this was COVID, and Puebla is not really a world school hub. So we made friends with a couple different families. This is one of them, and we did outdoor activities because of COVID. Gabby dyed her hair. We spent Halloween there, and then we decided to drive up to Texas. This is the Alamo. We sold my car, and then we took 4 flights to get to Tbilisi, Georgia, where we were in quarantine for 9 days in a hotel. Once we passed our PCR test, we were able to be out in the city. This is a winter time, so it was kind of cold. There was a few expat and world school families there, not a lot at the time, but yeah, we're hanging out with shelter dogs. We went to this really cute ski town where they had lots of activities, like zip lining and ice skating, and obviously skiing. My girls learned to ski there, and it was really cheap, super cheap. It was $15 for 2 hours to hire a ski instructor, and the chairlifts were closed. We had to, rent this Jeep and a driver to take us up the mountain a bit. And then back in Tbilisi, and then we spent a month. We went back to Bakuriani and spent a month there skiing. And then we decided to visit grandma again. And while we were in Seattle, we got our vaccinations. It makes it a little bit easier to travel. So here we are in Spain this past fall. And hey, Joe, this is a coder, a gal who works at Galileo. We met up with her. Other world school families, went to Picasso Museum. This is a family that we met in Chiang Mai, Thailand. So we saw them again years later. This is Learn Life, which is a alternative education school in Barcelona. I sometimes like to visit these places and post about them on Facebook. And yeah, so we really enjoyed Barcelona. Some of you may have been there before. This is a world school hub in La Herradura, Spain, south of Spain in Andalusia. So there's loads of teens there. The kids were doing CrossFit while the moms were having coffee and cocktails. We spent Halloween there, and Aubrey decided to shave her head. So she's got really short hair. And we went with some families, 4 families to Granada. We rented a big apartment for a weekend, and it was kind of nice to check it out with some other world school families, some of whom we've met before in other countries. These are friends of mine in Spain. When I lived in Sevilla, I lived there in 2002. So we reunited with them. I rented a camper van. This is Gibraltar. And we went around Andalusia for a bit, visiting all these white villages. And we were back in Sevilla, seeing our friends there again. This is my former Spanish teacher. And then we're on the road again to Portugal. This is the camper van we had electrical problems with. Oh, you have to see this. So this is a teen hub in south of Lisbon called Colibri Teens that my German friend Marila runs. And it was amazing. She rents a space once a week. The other days of the week are for younger kids. But the teens get together. They also make lunch every week. We went there twice. This is north of Lisbon. He's the former COO of Galileo. So we visited him and his friends back in Lisbon to visit all the sites. And Sintra, we're getting close to being done. Okay, we went to the teen hub again. So it was my girls' turn to shop and make lunch, which was amazing. And then they also hire a drum facilitator to come. So back in Lisbon, and then we had to, we went to France for Christmas to visit my friend who visited us in Mexico, and had an amazing Christmas dinner with their Italian French family. And then we wanted to go to Bulgaria for the World School pop-up there, but it was, France became a red zone. So we went to Rome for 3.5 days. So saw some amazing sites in Rome. And then we were able to go to Sofia. And then we bought some used skis and clothes there. And then we made it up to Bansko to finally ski. And this is Emmy in the middle, who runs the World School Hub there. There are literally dozens and dozens of families. I think 40, 50 families that came through over a 4-month period. So much socializing, weekly dinners, teen night, sleepovers, skiing, obviously 2-3 times a week. This is a family we met in Mexico and then later saw it in Spain. Yeah, a lot of these families, these are all Galileo families. So we had dinner together. They even had the Nutcracker there. And yeah, it was amazing. And then one of the English World School dads and I, we co-hosted a Start Your Own Business boot camp and had a business fair. My daughter Gabby is now an art commissioner. So this is her little promotion there. And so so much socializing. It was kind of crazy how there was stuff to do every day. This is the Ukrainian mom that we met who escaped. And we also volunteered at a donation center for Ukrainian refugees that were there. And this is us sledding down the mountain. It was super fun. We went to a lot of hot springs. We learned to bake bread. And then we left Bansko and we went to with another Worldschooling family in a train and an overnight bus to Istanbul. So almost done. So we're in Istanbul and then we made it. Oh, we rented Segways for a day. That was fun. Oh, we found a Korean restaurant in Istanbul. That was epic. And visited some mosques. And then, let's see. Okay, these were families that we met in Bansko. And here we are in Fethiye. So we're almost done. So this is a cute beach town. A lot of British are here. Also right now, a lot of Ukrainians and Russians. There's an amazing playground that we go to regularly. And yeah, so these are people that we met in previous countries that we're hanging out with. And there's a weekly mom's night out. And again, some families are here RVing. And then we bought used bicycles. And this is my final slide. This is the apartment complex we're going to be living in and having the teen hub. So obviously there's an amazing swimming pool, but back here is a clubhouse. So we're going to be able to use that as well as our 3-bedroom apartment. So I hope, sorry, this was very long, but I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of a peek at what it's like to World School. Now, I didn't show pictures of me sitting at a desk and working. I didn't show a lot of pictures of my kids doing their online learning, but you know, we like to do a mix of online and in-person learning. So yeah, hopefully, you know, a picture tells 1,000 words. I forget the phrase, but hopefully
well,
the photos will show
didn't mention
you
in the
our
beginning.
life. And again, you know, we're showing kind of the fun stuff. I didn't show the stuff of us cleaning dirty things and, you know, regular life, but regular life happens too. And yeah, you know, there's pros and cons for this lifestyle. It does get lonely sometimes, you know, especially if you're not with other people. We do miss grandma. We wish she would travel with us. She just bought a house and doesn't want to. I hope that kind of gives you a sneak peek. And I've posted these photos for friends on Facebook. I've been really bad about posting on Instagram, but I'm now with my new Worldschooling business, I will be posting regularly. So that catches you up on the past almost 6 years. And it's amazing to see how big my girls have gotten. We left when they were 7.5 and now they've turned 13. They turned 13 this past March.
And that's amazing. And I don't think we mentioned right in the beginning about that you're actually in Turkey right now. And you answered the question that I was, one of the questions, which was, how did you cope during the pandemic when it was much harder to travel?
Yes.
Obviously, you just had to stay put and then wait for something to open up.
Yeah, we were in Mexico for, I guess, 8 months. And it was just, it was hard because, you know, we're usually social. And actually my girls were with Galileo, so thank goodness we had that outlet. But it was hard to meet people in real life. So we had heard about Georgia, the Republic of Georgia, having a remote worker visa, special permit. And at the time, COVID was really low there. So I applied for it, got approved. And then this is why we decided to, you know, I had to drive my car back to the US to sell it because I couldn't sell it in Mexico. And then we flew there and we lived there for 6 months. And, you know, it was okay there, but I know somebody in Mexico who died and it was just a little scary. So that's why we decided to come back to the States and get vaccinated. And actually, when we were in France months later, my friend was able to arrange us to get a booster because Bulgaria, where we were heading to, was terrible with COVID. A lot of people were getting sick. So we wanted to protect ourselves. And yeah, luckily we had friends who got a little COVID. I'm sure we've been exposed to it, but we didn't get really sick with COVID. We got colds and stuff. Yeah, and hopefully it's dying down. Hopefully we can live a somewhat normal life. But yeah, so this is, again, whether it's an illness or, other problems along the road. I mean, when I was backpacking in 1998, I was in a train crash in Hungary, and then I got salmonella in India. I mean, bad things sometimes do happen when you're traveling.
I was going to ask about that, because you can also, you can have encounters that can not go so well, and probably some questions at borders and those sorts of things that you kind of just become part of your toolkit is how to deal with those.
I do join the expat groups for the country we're heading to months in advance if I can, and just try to find, or you can read blogs and just try to figure out what the entrance requirements are, especially during COVID. Some places you can't go to if you're not vaccinated, or you have to do a PCR test. So it really complicated our travels. A lot of world schoolers had to stay put or go back to their home countries for a bit. I think things are starting to loosen up a little bit more. So Jess asked about the belongings. I think you saw our luggage.
I was curious because I saw an Instant Pot and I thought, okay, what did you do with your Instant Pot when you sold your car?
Yeah, I did sell it to a friend in Mexico. And I actually was crazy because I was selling products that were accessories to the Instant Pot on Amazon. So I actually brought like a giant duffel bag with my Instant Pot box, with the padding and with all of our clothes, packing cubes wrapped around it. And I shipped it to Colombia. Then I brought it to Peru, where the electricity is different. So I had to buy a electrical converter thing. And then I sold it in Peru. And I actually, I had a bidding war. So many people wanted it because it was hard to buy in Peru at the time. And then I bought another one in the States, and I drove it with lots of stuff down to Mexico. And we had a garage sale. I sold some stuff. I gave away things. We do give away things. We donate. So I do pack, some people travel around the world with just carry-ons. I like to bring a chef knife and a paring knife and a coffee grinder. I mean, I have my, things that I like. And so I do at least have one big bag that we check, a 50-pound bag that we check with those kind of things. And then we're now down to 3 small rollers, and then we each have a backpack, and then I have my big bag. I actually have a suitcase stored in France at my friend's house. And then I have things in Bansko, Bulgaria stored. I'm paying for storage there. All of our ski stuff, ski and snowboard and winter clothes. So I'm keeping that there. It's kind of crazy. I had things stored in Republic of Georgia at a friend's house, and then I was going to have her ship it to Bulgaria, but the cost was too high. So I just told her, forget it, just keep it. So you have to practice being a minimalist as much as you can. And, I think when we first started, my girls were young, so we had loads of toys. And then little by little, the things that they didn't play with, we donated, and clothes and, constantly shedding things that they grow out of. I actually have several clothing items and shoes that I still have 6 years because they're lasting me. I try to buy good quality things, and they last quite a while. But yeah, right now we are not traveling with our Instant Pot, but we did buy a panini press in Bulgaria that we still have. It's not that big. And this way my girls can make lunch without me.
Well, you know how on YouTube they say, does this video contain promotions? So,
oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
No, I think it's kind of funny because if once you've tried something like that you really get on well with, you don't want to be parted from it, but that's kind of funny. So I mean, there's so many questions. Like you've shared a bit about the income. You're going to set up. You've got your trailblazing families. Things are basically, if people want to find out more, want to ask questions, they can get hold of you through that.
I would just send me a friend request on Facebook. I'm happy to be friends with other home educators and world schoolers and unschoolers and whatnot. I'll be posting there. And I also have a Facebook group, Trailblazing Families, but I'm still developing the business. I'm focusing on the teen hub right now. And then in a month or so, once that's up and running, I'll be focusing on the new business. But I will be, I think there will be some tips and tricks on how to travel with kids, but I feel like there's loads of that online anyway. And there's a million questions people can ask. So my two things I will focus on is how to educate kids while you're traveling, whether it's online or you home educate, you're the parent who's in charge of it, or you visit homeschool or world school hubs, or you put your kids in a school somewhere if you're allowed. There's also world school communities popping up, like Boundless in Portugal. Sintra is quite expensive, but they have a school and a co-working space and apartments that you can live in for thousands and thousands of pounds a month. And then there's cheaper things, like what we're doing here in Turkey, where I'm just trying to basically cover the costs. Maybe someday we'll have a profit, but for now we're in experimental mode. So I'm trying to keep it under $200 a month. It mostly covers the facilitator. So we'll be focusing on the education and then also how to fund this lifestyle. There's a lot of people who work office jobs or traditional jobs, and they want to know how they can transition to online work, whether it's a remote job or you launch an online business or you start working as a freelancer or consultant. So I guess I will be kind of a digital nomad career coach. I'm not going to teach everyone how to do those 200 plus jobs. I'm going to interview a lot of people who do different jobs and really deep dive into each particular profession. So it will take time for me to create lots of content, like what you're doing, Juliet, creating lots of content. But eventually the plan is to interview a lot of people. There'll be some free content on YouTube, and then some like a membership group for like more in-depth information. And then eventually an online course. And then hopefully once I get a large enough audience, I can have sponsorships, how this episode was brought to you by such and such, a travel insurance company. So that is the plan.
What is the web address for your Trailblazing Families?
Well, it's trailblazingfamilies.com. I do have the URL, and actually the CEO Galileo helped me make that site, but I need to revamp it. So it's not live right now.
Okay,
so
I'm just popping that in the chat if anyone wants to keep an eye.
Yeah, it's dead right now. I need to revamp it.
And follow you on Facebook. So that they can keep an eye on that. I'm trying to think, because we've only got, we're really kind of out of time. I mean, I could have spoken with you for another half an hour, because it is a fascinating topic. And, obviously, I think your children are learning, even if we don't see the actual sit down doing workbooks, anything like that, or online programs, your children will be learning so much. And have such a broad depth of experience, which they will bring to whatever they do in the future. It's going to really, their world is wide open. And I think that's the real appeal. Yeah, but that's the absolute appeal of it. And you create kind of a way of thinking for them in their, in how they approach other cultures, and meeting people from so many different walks of life and having so many different experiences. I think that will be something that will stand there in very good stead in the future.
Yeah, and I did want to mention, we obviously hang out with other world schoolers and expats, but we do try to meet local kids, especially in Spanish-speaking countries. So my girls can, practice their Spanish, or I guess one of them wants to learn French. So we may be going to France soon, but I think it's really opens up my girls' eyes up to different ways to live. And that's one thing I really wanted to change for them. I didn't want them to grow up in the suburbs of Seattle, being a typical American princess, just wanting things and consuming things. I wanted them to see the world and become explorers and be adventurous and learn how to create. So that is our aim, and who knows, in the future they may want to settle down and never leave the US, but at least we as parents get a chance to try to shape our kids, and this is the way we're doing it.
Yeah, and Lucy's got a last question, but I don't know. So perhaps she could contact you on Facebook to find
Yeah,
out
and
who's in
there are
Scotland.
lots of World Schoolers in the UK. There's loads. So you can join the World School groups and just ask, hey, I'm in the UK. I want to start, traveling, taking baby steps, want to go someplace in Scotland and the UK. Is there anyone we can meet up with? Because before we started traveling, we met with people who came to Seattle. They were passing through from other countries. And so it was really nice to be able to meet other families who had they're pioneers or trailblazers before us. We just learned so much from them. So I think baby steps, if this lifestyle kind of scares you, baby steps, and then maybe you can rent out your house for a month or so, put it on Airbnb and go somewhere abroad and try that. And I mean, you're already home educating, so you don't have to stick to any school schedules. I guess you just need to figure out the travel logistics and, the learning is easy. You just go and explore the world.
And having mentioned Galileo as many times, you have in 1 minute or less, tell everyone about Galileo.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I no longer work there, but my kids are still enrolled and Joe is involved with Galileo. It's an online global school that started 2.5, 3 years ago. And it has students in over 30 countries and I think facilitators and mentors and teachers in over 20 countries. So it is truly global. And it follows a self-directed education philosophy, which is great for our family. They really promote and kind of strew the ideas of entrepreneurship, technology, global citizenship, and learning how to learn. I think I'm going to start coughing now. It's my girls like it. We're kind of doing it part-time right now because we're doing other things as well.
Well, I'm going to probably wrap this up now just because we're out of time. Lucy, if I think somebody answered you on the chat there, but perhaps if you know any names of groups, Julie, if you want to quickly pop those in the chat around the camper van thing. So I just want to thank Lizz for her time. I'm hoping I'll see a bit more of her, possibly get her involved at the Learn Free conference, which is coming up next May, and next month, and just a few weeks now. And because I think it would be lovely to hear more from you. It just is an amazing way to raise children, and I just want to take my hat off to you because I think it's pretty brave, and I know for you it's probably just a way of life, but it is pretty brave. And it's hard enough raising children, home educating children, just in your own home and in your own city. So well done.
Yeah, I think we're so used to this now and meeting people and exploring new things. We're kind of becoming adventure junkies, I think. Not every day, like I said, other days we just have a regular life. But when I go home to the States, it's boring to me because I've done everything that in that area. And of course, we'd like to see friends and family, but we like to explore new places. I mean, there's hundreds of countries around the world. We don't want to see all of them, but we might as well see some of them.
Yeah, and there's some beautiful places, and I'm quite jealous that you've seen them. So, there are so many beautiful places. I see them come up on my screensaver. I need to go there. So it's amazing just to hear your story. So thank you so much. We will have next month on our streams webinars. We won't be having an expert webinar like this one because it will be the Learn Free conference, which is another baby of mine. That's learnfree.org.uk, which is a conference for home educators, and we will have speakers from all over the world, including Peter Gray, who many of you will have heard of. So if you want to go and check the website now and go and book on there. If you join streams, our streams.education, if you sign up as a member, we can give you a discount of £5 off your ticket for Learn Free. So Joe's just popped that in a chat, so I'll give you a couple of seconds just to copy that if you want to. But sign up at Streams and we'll send you some info and a discount code. Thank you very much. I'm going to end that now.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Joe. Thanks, everyone, for participating.